Coming up next on NewsDepth, an astronomer explains, what is a total solar eclipse? Jeff does a deep dive on the moon. Did you know Ohio has been home to plenty of astronauts? And we have the latest on the lunar landings and Mars missions. NewsDepth is now. Hello everybody, I'm Gabriel Kramer. We're coming to you straight from the NewsDepth space station to bring you a special episode all about space. But Natalia, she's our producer. Do you think we could turn the gravity back on? This whole episode seems like it's gonna be kind of tricky. Okay, thank you. That's a lot better. Gravity, by the way, is the force that attracts a body toward the center of the Earth or toward any other physical body having mass. Okay, let's get started with the show. On April the 8th, there will be a total solar eclipse, and Northeast Ohio is in the path of totality, which means we are in the best place to see it. A solar eclipse happens when the moon moves between the sun and the Earth, obscuring the sun either partially or entirely from view. The event will last about 2 hours, starting just before 2 p.m., but at exactly 3:15 p.m., the moon will be perfectly positioned to completely cover the sun if you're watching in or near Cleveland. But if you don't live in Northeast Ohio, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to see the eclipse. Let me introduce you to astronomer Destiny Thomas. She works at the Cleveland Natural History Museum, and she is here to explain the science behind and in front of an eclipse.
I'm Destiny Thomas. I'm a museum astronomer, and we're here at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. An astronomer is a scientist who studies outer space and everything beyond the Earth's atmosphere. For me, I got interested in astronomy going to local planetariums as an elementary school student. So going into that planetarium and seeing all those beautiful stars above me made me really interested in learning what's out there with astronomy. An eclipse is an occurrence where one celestial body is blocked or obscured by another celestial body. We have solar eclipses and lunar eclipses. A solar eclipse is where the Earth falls within the shadow of the moon, and then a lunar eclipse is where the moon falls within the shadow of the Earth. So we have about 2 to 5 eclipses every year, and they're divided between 2 seasons. We have 2 eclipse seasons per year. Within each season, we have at least 1 solar eclipse and 1 lunar eclipse. Eclipses are predicted by studying cycles, and so this is going to include the moon's orbit around Earth and also the Earth's orbit around the sun. Now, we've been able to predict eclipses very accurately since the 1700s. We can predict them up to multiple centuries in advance. Once we get to about 1,000 years out, it gets a little less accurate because the Earth's rotational motion is actually changing over time. The Earth is slowing down, and the moon is also getting farther away from the Earth. So every year, the moon gets about 1.5 inches farther away. In about 600 million years, we'll no longer be able to have a total solar eclipse. On April 8th of this year, we're going to have a total solar eclipse, and when the moon shadow is going to cross the United States, it's going to start in Texas, going through about 13 states all the way up to the state of Maine. So when we're talking about total solar eclipses, we want to focus on the path of totality. That's where the darkest part of the moon shadow will cross the Earth, and if you are within the path of totality, you get 100% coverage of the sun at some point during the day. For us here in Cleveland, we're less than 25 miles from the central line, which means the closer you are to the central line, the longer duration of totality you have. We have one of the longest durations in the state. We'll have 3 minutes and 50 seconds of totality in Cleveland. Everyone else in the United States, if they're outside of the path of totality, will experience a partial solar eclipse. On April 8th, the entire eclipse is going to last for about 2.5 hours. For us here in Cleveland, the time of first contact, the very start of the eclipse, will be 1:59 in the afternoon. And then we get to totality at 3:13. We hit the maximum of totality at 3:15. It ends at 3:17, and then the very, very end of the last partial stage will be at about 4:30. So if we're in Northeast Ohio, for us to observe the total solar eclipse, you want to look towards the southwest. and then the sun and moon, they'll be about 50 degrees above the horizon. A technique that you can use is to actually extend your arm out in front of you, and you want to make a fist with your hand. You'll start your fist at the horizon, and then if you go up about 5 of your fists high, that should be about 50 degrees up. That gives you a good estimate to have an expectation of where the sun and moon will be for the total solar eclipse. It's very important to protect your eyes during the total solar eclipse. The only time you can look up at the sun with your unaided eye is during totality. Outside of totality, before and after, you want to protect your vision because the sun's so bright. So you can have permanent damage done to your eyes. You can also have retinal damage because the sun's light is so intense. So make sure you have safety precautions in place. There's going to be so much to see when you're looking up in the sky for the total solar eclipse. There's also going to be a lot to see if you look around you in your environment. So as the sun is being eclipsed by the moon, you might start to see how shadows are changing. As we approach totality, shadows may appear to be sharper. And also, you'll be able to see those partial phases as they're projected onto different surfaces. It'll almost look like a solar crescent projected on the ground. For all my students out there who are really excited about astronomy, a big piece of advice that I have is to explore the sky. So if you have a telescope, you can look up at the sky during the night. If you want to do any solar viewing, make sure you have proper solar filters to do that during the day. And also just stay curious. Stay curious about all the things that you can learn because there's so much out there in the universe.
Thank you, Destiny. And special thanks to Ideastream's Lee Barr for her help on that last video. In 1969, Ohio native Neil Armstrong reached the moon, a milestone in space exploration. But how much do we really know about the moon? The moon formed from a collision about 4.5 billion years ago. And Earth is not the only planet in our solar system that has moons. Jeff St. Clair has the scoop.
In 1969, humans took their first steps on Earth's only natural satellite, the moon. It was a monumental achievement in the history of space exploration. We know what it took for humans to get there, but what did it take for the moon to get there? To find out, we must go back in time some 4.5 billion years. The leading scientific theory of the origin of the moon is the giant impact hypothesis. According to this theory, around 4.5 billion years ago, during the early formation of the solar system, a Mars-sized protoplanet, referred to as Theia, collided with a young Earth. The impact was so powerful, it ejected a significant amount of material from both Theia and Earth into space. This ejected material eventually combined and formed a disk of debris around Earth known as the lunar disk. Over time, the particles in this disk began to clump together due to gravitational forces, forming the moon. Our moon is the 5th largest moon in the solar system, about 1/6 the size of Earth. It has a diameter of around 2,159 miles. Scientists say our moon's circumference has shrunk by about 150 feet in the last million years. That doesn't sound like much, and it won't affect Earth, but it indicates a geologically active satellite. In fact, the moon is still hot inside. It's cooling off though, and that causes the surface to shrink, like a grape, shriveling into a raisin. The moon's surface is rocky and heavily cratered with plains, mountains, and valleys. Its appearance in the sky changes due to phases caused by the interaction between sunlight and its orbit around Earth. These phases range from the new moon, when the moon is not visible from Earth, to the full moon, when the entire face of the moon is illuminated. While Earth's moon is remarkable, it's not alone in having companions in the cosmos. Many planets in our solar system have moons, each with unique characteristics. Mars has 2 small moons named Phobos and Deimos. These moons are irregularly shaped and thought to be captured asteroids. Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system, has a whopping 79 known moons. Some of the largest moons, known as the Galilean moons, include Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Saturn has over 80 confirmed moons, with its largest being Titan. Titan is notable for its dense atmosphere and hydrocarbon lakes. Some dwarf planets and large asteroids in the outer solar system also have moons. For example, Pluto has 5 known moons, the largest of which is Charon. In recent years, there's been renewed interest in lunar exploration, with plans for future missions to return humans to the moon and establish a sustainable presence there. Overall, the moon continues to be a source of wonder, inspiration, and scientific discovery for humanity.
Thank you, Jeff. Ohio is home to pioneers in many fields. One of the areas in which Ohioans have blazed new trails is spaceflight. According to NASA, 25 astronauts are Ohio natives. Collectively, these Ohioans have completed close to 80 space missions, including 3 voyages to the moon, and accumulated more than 22,000 hours of spaceflight experience. In this week's Know Ohio, Zaria Johnson highlights the achievements of some of these brave space pioneers.
Ohioans know how to reach for the stars, literally. There have been more than a handful who have headed into space with careers as astronauts. Let me introduce you to a few who really stand out. No doubt you've heard of Neil Armstrong. He's got that famous quote, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Originally from Wapakoneta, Ohio, Armstrong attended Purdue University, where he studied aeronautical engineering before being called to serve in the Korean War, where he flew 78 missions. Upon returning and completing his education at Purdue, Armstrong joined the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which would eventually become NASA. It was here where Armstrong made history flying the Apollo 11 and becoming the first man to walk on the moon in 1969. Although monumental, Armstrong was not the only Ohio-born astronaut making an impact during that time. John Glenn, born in Cambridge, Ohio, beat him to space. Glenn was the first American to orbit the Earth in 1962. In 1959, Glenn was selected to join the first group of astronauts named the Mercury 7. Glenn made history for America with his orbit mission and continued serving the country as an Ohio senator for 25 years. However, he didn't stop there. He made history once more in 1998, when he did one more space flight. What was so impressive this go? Well, Glenn was 77 years old at the time, making him the oldest person to fly into space. Now, Armstrong and Glenn are probably familiar names, but how about Judy Resnick? Ever heard of her? Resnick was from Akron and was accepted into the astronaut program in 1978, along with 5 other women. During her time, she became the second female astronaut to travel to space and was well regarded for being a pioneer. Her first flight to space was aboard the Discovery in 1984. She was an expert in operating the shuttle's robotic arm. Unfortunately, Resnick's next mission was aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986. The Challenger exploded not long after takeoff, killing her and 6 other crewmates. Resnick's work and accomplishments helped revolutionize the industry and pave the way forward for women. For example, one of the toughest astronauts out there, Sunita Williams. Williams was born in Euclid, Ohio. She joined NASA as an astronaut in 1998, already having retired from a career as a Navy captain. She served as a flight engineer during her time as an astronaut. Williams has been commended for endurance as an astronaut and has a record to back it up with 2 missions under her belt. She has spent time on the International Space Station and set the record for female astronauts with the most spacewalk, totaling more than 50 hours. So as you can see, Ohio is home to some super accomplished astronauts, and there are plenty more I could talk about. Will you be one of them one day?
Thank you, Zaria. And that brings us to our poll for the week. Who is your favorite Ohio astronaut? Jump over to our poll page to vote. You can choose between Neil Armstrong, John Glenn, Judy Resnick, Sunita Williams, or someone else, but all of them are pretty out of this world. Last week, we talked about new legislation coming out of Congress that could potentially ban the social media app TikTok, and we wanted to know what you thought. 68% of you said yes, TikTok should be banned in the United States, while another 32% of you voted no because you like TikTok. A US-made spacecraft named Odysseus has achieved the historic feat of landing on the uncharted South Pole of the moon after 50 years. NASA, the primary supporter of the Odysseus mission, intends to dispatch a crewed expedition to the same lunar region as part of its Artemis program. The objective of the Artemis program is to pioneer a human settlement on the moon and leverage the acquired expertise for future Mars missions. A settlement refers to a community or group of people living together on a particular area or location. Michael Yoshida spoke to a NASA official about this new space age and what is ahead as humanity once again reaches for the stars.
For the first time in 50 years, a U.S.-made spacecraft touching down on the moon. The company behind Odie says these images released Tuesday are the closest observations of the area. It's of high scientific interest because it may have ice that in the future could be used for water fuel.
This is a gigantic accomplishment.
NASA, the main financial backer of the Odysseus mission, plans to send a crewed mission to the moon's south pole as early as September 2026 as part of the agency's Artemis missions. The goal, to establish a human base on the moon and eventually use what is learned to take the next giant leap, sending astronauts to Mars. On Earth, NASA is already preparing for human exploration of the red planet.
We already, send things to Mars, right? So a real complication with Mars is the human component.
A 4-person crew is currently living and working inside a 1,700 square foot habitat, simulating physical and mental challenges of a Mars mission.
Being away from family and friends for an extended period of time, living in a small space with other individuals for an extended period of time.
This research, combined with other work on the International Space Station and future lunar missions, will
tell us a piece of the puzzle that we can integrate and to help understand these challenges as well as test countermeasures.
The first of 3 Mars surface simulations is nearing its end, and NASA is accepting applications to take part in the second mission set to begin next year. NASA has previously said it hopes to send astronauts to Mars as early as the 2030s. For our Write to Us this week, we want you to send in your questions about a career in space science. In next episode, we'll have a professional answer some of them for our career call-out segment. On our last episode, we met photographer Bridget Caswell, and we wanted to see your photography skills. Let's see some of the pictures you sent by opening up our inbox. Leah from Claggett Middle School in Medina, my hometown, sent this picture and wrote, "Dear NewsDepth, this is a picture I took in 2nd grade of a cotton candy sky. I hope you like it, and tell Newshound I said hi. Woof." Beautiful picture, Leah. It does look just like cotton candy. Hayden from Eastwoods Intermediate School in Hudson sent us a picture of a cool hangout spot. "Dear NewsDepth, I took a picture of my school's courtyards because I love going out there to do work and just to have fun, and all my friends come with me." McKenna from Suffield Elementary in Mogador painted us a picture using words. "Dear NewsDepth, I'm sorry I don't have a picture, but maybe if I can describe it, you can picture it. It's an orange flower with a beautiful butterfly that had black stripes all over it, and it was orange between the stripes. But also the flower had a really cool line with a ball-looking thing coming out of the middle. It was yellow." McKenna, you did a great job describing it. I can see it in my head for sure. Dominic from Nord Middle School in Amherst sent a picture of their dog. "Dear NewsDepth, I have a picture of my dog. His name is Zeus. I can feel better when I'm by him, and tell the Newshound that we enjoy him. I hope you and Igal are both working hard and you have the best job. I think Zeus and Newshound will be great friends." I bet they would be great friends too, Dominic. Amelia from Gillis-Sweet Elementary in Fairview Park sent us a picture of something very special to them, their pencil box. "Dear NewsDepth, I did this because I had it since 3rd grade. It has all my stickers. It's my favorite color. My favorite color is blue. I dropped it a couple times, but it survived. That's why it has a bunch of holes and broken spots. This is why I did my pencil box." Thanks to everyone that sent in photographs. You all have a really good eye for it. Now let's head back to outer space. Some of you are probably wondering what a human settlement on the moon would even look like. In order for human life to be sustainable in space, there will need to be food, water, shelter, of course, and even medical services. And you're posing some great questions. Well, check out this next story. Doctors on Earth have managed to successfully control a tiny robot at the International Space Station that could help perform operations remotely. Kristen Fisher details this major milestone.
Sitting on top of this SpaceX rocket when it launched in January was the first surgical robot bound for outer space.
So Mira is a small surgical robot.
Mira, made by a company called Virtual Incision, arrived at the International Space Station in February, and on Saturday, it did something that's never been done before.
Saturday was the first time that a surgical robot in space was controlled by surgeons on Earth to perform simulated surgical activities.
Virtual Incision provided CNN with exclusive video as 6 surgeons at the company's headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska, took turns operating the robot after it was powered up by NASA astronauts roughly 250 miles above.
It was really exhilarating, but at the same time, once I saw that robotic device doing the things that I'm used to it doing, settled down.
Dr. Michael Jobst says he's already performed 15 surgeries with Mira during clinical trials on human patients here on Earth, but he's never had to contend with zero gravity or a time delay of about half a second.
A split second or a half a second is going to be significant. So this was a big challenge.
You can see a left hand with a grasper and a right hand with a pair of scissors. And we use rubber bands here to simulate surgical tissue.
So you could think of those rubber bands as perhaps, blood vessels or tendons or other connective tissue that has elasticity. So we're able to, grab hold of the rubber bands and then take the scissors and just basically to cut them.
All right, I'm going for it.
Thank you, Kristen. In addition to someday performing remote surgeries on people in space, they also want to use this technology on Earth, in rural areas or war zones where it might be tough to find a surgeon. In New York, a team of aerospace engineering students at a private university is looking to make history with a rocket launch. Imani Payne spoke with the group on the importance of the mission.
While most college students are focused on spring break plans this time of year, this group of RPI students are focused on something a bit more daring.
So really, you all are essentially rocket scientists here.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool fact to be able to say.
And you can't be a rocket scientist without a rocket. The aerospace engineering students, known as the Ascendants, using this rocket to attempt something that no other university team has done before.
2, 1.
Send a rocket 330,000 feet into the sky where Earth and outer space meet.
I've always loved space. I've always loved rocketry. I think this is an awesome opportunity, and I would not want to waste that.
The team, off to a good start, launching their rocket more than 42,000 feet high in an earlier competition in Nevada. Their latest design, though, expected to soar up to 375,000 feet, cruising straight into outer space. The students also researching cost-saving benefits of their project that could benefit mankind in the future, making the time, effort, and energy they're dedicating to the mission that much more rewarding.
You feel such a sense of pride because you're like, oh my goodness, I spent so many hours working on this in the lab and on the computer and all that, and then you just put it on the pad, you watch it go up, and then everybody else around you is also watching it, so you're like, yes, it worked. Such a great feeling.
Great work, team. People always say, if you shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. Well, this week's A+ award winner did just that. Grant Bauer, an 8th grader at Huron Middle School, recently got a personal message from NASA's Mars Perseverance rover. Grant was one of 20 students from across the country who were selected by NASA to speak with the rover team at the Jet Propulsion Lab in California. Grant is a really hard worker. When he faces a challenge, he sticks to it until he's successful, says Mrs. LaCrosse, Grant's teacher and cross-country coach. She also shared that he is the go-to guy for keeping the school's 3 3D printers operational. She also told us that he was able to use the technology to build models of the rover and space shuttle. Grant told us that he hopes to eventually work for NASA and that his interest began in 5th grade. He has a particular interest in microgravity. Grant taught us that microgravity is the condition in which people or objects appear to be weightless. Microgravity can be seen when astronauts and objects float in space. It's what keeps the International Space Station in orbit. Grant also told us about his conversation with the rover team at the Jet Propulsion Lab. The engineers at NASA told him that the rover's trip to Mars was not as easy as it seemed. They were challenged with 2 system restarts and a coding error. Grant's dad told us that he's most proud of Grant's character and his unwillingness to give up. And that brings us to the message Grant received from the rover. Grant told us that the rover's message was keep going, never stop. Stopping will get you nowhere. That message sums up Grant's approach to life. This week's A+ award goes to Grant Bauer from Huron Middle School for his grit and determination. Keep reaching for the stars, Grant. It's now time to check in on NewsHound. I think he said he found a story about some flying pups. Let's find out what he meant by that. Hey, NewsHound. Nice NewsDepth glasses. It's great to see you're ready to see the eclipse safely. Well, what animal story did you find this week? Oh, it's a story about two pilots in Kansas that fly rescue animals to different states for medical treatments. Aha, that's what you meant by flying pups. Great story, NewsHound. You can watch the full video on our website and YouTube channel. And that's a wrap for this week's show. The NewsDepth team will be on spring break next week, so our next episode will be posted on April the 11th. Until then, you can keep the conversation going because you know we always want to hear from you. And there are plenty of ways for you to stay in touch with us. You can write to us. We're at 1375 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio. Our zip code here is 44115. Or you can email us at newsdepth@ideastream.org. Plus, you can catch all of our special segments on YouTube. Hit subscribe if you're old enough so you don't miss out on any of our new videos. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gabriel Kramer. We'll see you back when we land on Earth. Hey, Natalia, let's turn off that gravity again.
NewsDepth is made possible by a grant from the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation.
Career callouts featured in NewsDepth are funded by the Ohio Broadcast Media Commission.